Most people assume that the main obstacle to speaking English fluently is their tongue. They think, if I just pronounce correctly, I'll be fluent, or if I memorize more words, I'll speak smoothly. But fluency is rarely about memorization or perfect pronunciation. The real challenge lies in the brain, specifically in how your brain processes and produces the language. Think about it this way. When a child learns to speak, they don't start by memorizing grammar rules. They absorb sounds, patterns, and context naturally. Their brain forms connections automatically, without thinking about conjugations or sentence structures. Adult learners often skip this crucial step and go straight to the tongue training, repeating phrases mechanically. The result? Stumbling speech and frustration. The key is to train your brain to think in English, not just translate from your native language. When your brain starts forming direct connections in English, your speech becomes effortless. You start to feel words as they come naturally, without hesitation or fear of making mistakes. It's a subtle shift, but it's the difference between struggling to speak and speaking confidently, as if the language has always been a part of you. By understanding this, you'll stop blaming your tongue and start focusing on what truly matters. And that is exactly what we'll dive into in the next chapters, step-by-step methods to rewire your brain for fluency. One of the biggest breakthroughs in becoming fluent is learning to think in English rather than constantly translating from your native language. Most learners make the mistake of hearing a word in English, mentally translating it into their own language, and then trying to speak. This two-step process slows you down and creates hesitation. Imagine trying to run a race with a backpack full of rocks. Your mind is doing all the heavy lifting before your tongue even starts moving. Thinking directly in English is like unloading that backpack. Your brain starts to process thoughts in the language itself, and your speech becomes faster, smoother, and more natural. This isn't something that happens overnight. It takes conscious effort, practice, and patience. Start with small daily exercises. For instance, pick a simple scenario like ordering coffee or grocery shopping and imagine the conversation in English. Don't translate, just picture yourself thinking the words in English and forming the sentences naturally. Another practical method is mental narration. Throughout your day, describe your actions silently in English. When you brush your teeth, think, "I'm brushing my teeth. The toothpaste tastes minty. I feel awake and ready for the day." At first, this may feel awkward, but over time, your brain builds pathways that make speaking fluently automatic. You're essentially training your mind to recognize and respond in English the way a native speaker would. Finally, immerse yourself in English as much as possible. Listen to podcasts, watch shows, read articles, or even label items in your home with English words. Every bit of exposure rewires your brain, gradually eliminating the need for translation. When you train your brain to think in English, your tongue simply follows. It's like teaching your body to dance after your mind knows the rhythm. Fluency isn't just built by speaking out loud. It's also built by mental rehearsal, a technique used by athletes, performers, and successful public speakers. The mind is powerful. When you visualize yourself speaking fluently, your brain treats it almost like reality, forming neural connections that make the action easier when you actually do it. Start by picking a scenario where you want to feel confident speaking English. Maybe it's introducing yourself in a meeting, having a conversation with a friend, or telling a story. Close your eyes and imagine it vividly. Picture the environment, the people, the expressions, and most importantly, imagine yourself speaking naturally, smoothly, and confidently. Hear your own voice in your head, using the words effortlessly. The more detailed your visualization, the stronger the neural pathway your brain creates. Another tip is to practice mental dialogues.
ask yourself a question like, "What did I do over the weekend?" and answer it in English, but only in your mind. Try to make your internal conversation as realistic as possible, complete with pauses, natural phrasing, and even little corrections. Over time, your brain will get used to producing these thoughts in English without hesitation, and when you speak out loud, it will feel effortless. Mental rehearsal also helps reduce fear. Often, learners stumble because they're afraid of making mistakes or sounding silly, but when you've already practiced in your mind, your brain knows exactly what to do. You've rehearsed the rhythm, the tone, and the flow, so when the real conversation happens, your brain doesn't panic. It simply follows the pathway it has already created.
Remember, your tongue doesn't need to work harder. Your brain does the training. By investing time in mental rehearsal, you're preparing yourself for real conversations without the pressure. And that's the secret many fluent speakers use without even thinking about it. Fluency isn't just about speaking. It's equally about listening. Native speakers don't just know words, they recognize patterns, tones, and rhythms of speech. By training your brain to listen like a native speaker, you're teaching it to anticipate words and phrases, making speaking much easier. Start by exposing yourself to authentic English content. Podcasts, audiobooks, movies, TV shows, and even YouTube videos are all valuable tools. The key is active listening, not passive background noise. When you listen, pay attention to the flow of sentences, the intonation, and how ideas connect naturally. Notice how native speakers link words together, shorten sounds, and emphasize certain words. These details will subconsciously shape the way your brain processes English. Another technique is shadowing. Pick a short clip, maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute, and repeat what the speaker says immediately after them, trying to match their tone, rhythm, and pace. Don't worry about perfect pronunciation at first. Focus on the pattern of speech. This trains your brain to produce English the way it's naturally spoken, reducing the mental effort when you actually converse. Listening also builds your predictive language skills. Your brain starts to anticipate what comes next in a sentence or conversation, allowing your speech to flow smoothly. You no longer pause to think of each word. Instead, your brain automatically fills in the gaps. Over time, this makes conversations feel effortless and natural, as if English has become your second instinct. Consistency is crucial. Speaking daily, even for a few minutes, creates neural pathways that strengthen over time. Your brain begins to associate English with action rather than fear. Pair this with mental rehearsal and listening practice, and you create a safe, continuous cycle of learning. Finally, surround yourself with supportive environments. Talk to friends, join language exchange groups, or even use apps that connect learners with native speakers. The more you speak without fear, the more your brain adapts, the easier it becomes, and the more natural your English flows. Remember, fluency is a journey, and the courage to speak is the first major milestone on that path. When most learners think about improving English fluency, they immediately focus on memorizing vocabulary. They download lists of hundreds of words, make flashcards, and try to cram definitions into their memory. But here's the thing, memorizing words alone rarely helps you speak fluently. Your brain doesn't automatically know how to use the word in conversation, and your tongue hesitates because it's waiting for approval. The real secret lies in how your brain connects words to meaning, context, and feeling. Vocabulary isn't just about knowing the dictionary definition, it's about internalizing the word so that it pops into your mind automatically when you need it. Think of your brain as a city with roads connecting neighborhoods. If the roads are weak or incomplete, your thoughts get stuck in traffic. When you build strong, natural pathways between words, ideas, and emotions, speaking becomes effortless. Your tongue doesn't need to think, it simply follows the brain's directions. So, how do you train your brain to learn vocabulary naturally?
One powerful method is contextual learning. Instead of memorizing table, a piece of furniture, imagine yourself in a room. You see the table, feel the smooth surface, place your cup on it, and say the word out loud in that context. Your brain now associates the word with an experience, not just a definition. This is why children learn languages so quickly. They experience words in real-life situations rather than through rote memorization. Another method is story-based learning. Pick a word you want to learn and create a short story around it. For example, take the word astonished. Imagine a character named Sarah walking into a surprise party. Sarah opened the door and was astonished to see all her friends cheering. Her eyes widened and she couldn't believe her luck. By embedding the word in a vivid, emotional scene, your brain remembers it much more effectively than any list or repetition. The next time you want to express surprise, astonished will come to mind automatically. Visualization plays a huge role too. Close your eyes and picture the action or feeling associated with the word. If the word is serene, imagine sitting by a quiet lake, the water reflecting the soft sunlight, a gentle breeze brushing past your skin. Your brain forms a direct connection between the sensory experience and the word itself. When your brain feels it, your tongue speaks it naturally. Repetition with variation is also crucial. Instead of repeating the same sentence over and over, vary the context. For example, if you're learning astonished, try these. I was astonished by the magician's trick. He looked astonished when he saw the gift. The children were astonished by the fireworks display. By seeing the word in multiple scenarios, your brain develops flexible pathways. You're not just memorizing, you're training your brain to recognize the word as a tool you can use anywhere. Engagement and emotion make vocabulary stick. Your brain remembers emotionally charged experiences better than neutral ones. This is why humor, surprise, or even mild stress can help you remember a word. When you laugh at a funny scene involving your new vocabulary, your brain encodes the word along with the positive emotion. Later, recalling the emotion helps retrieve the word instantly. Another strategy is thematic learning. Focus on clusters of related words instead of random lists. For instance, if you're learning about emotions, group words like joyful, elated, anxious, frustrated, and content. When you practice speaking or writing, you can choose from a rich set of words that share a theme, which strengthens neural connections. This method mimics how our brain naturally organizes language. It's not a flat list, but a network of interconnected ideas.
Let's also talk about reading for fluency. Reading is more than just understanding. It's training your brain to absorb sentence structures, idioms, and vocabulary organically. Choose materials slightly above your comfort level so that you encounter new words in meaningful context. Don't stop at every unknown word. Instead, try to infer meaning from the surrounding sentences and visual imagination. Later, check the meaning and create personal sentences. Over time, this process rewires your brain to recognize patterns and instantly recall words when speaking. Listening with attention complements reading perfectly. When you hear words used naturally in conversation, your brain not only understands the meaning, but also the tone, rhythm, and emotion behind them. For example, hearing astonished in a podcast where a host recounts a surprising event allows your brain to encode the word in multiple layers: sound, meaning, and context. When you speak, you replicate this natural pattern effortlessly. Finally, integrate vocabulary into your daily thinking and speaking routines. Narrate your day in English, describe your surroundings, and mentally label your experiences. The more you use words in real-life contexts, the stronger the neural pathways become. Eventually, when you try to speak, your brain supplies words as instinctively as it does in your native language. Remember, vocabulary alone doesn't make you fluent. It's the connection between words, meaning, context, and emotion that trains your brain. By focusing on how your brain absorbs and recalls language, you bypass the struggle of mechanical repetition. Your tongue simply follows the roadmap your mind has already built. This approach may take time and conscious effort, but it's far more effective than traditional memorization. Think of it like gardening. You're planting seeds, words, watering them with context and emotion, and over time, they grow into a lush, natural forest of language that you can navigate effortlessly. Imagine yourself sitting at a cafe. You're about to greet a friend, order coffee, or comment on the music playing. Instead of panicking, pause and run the conversation in your mind first. Picture the scenario vividly: the table, the aroma of coffee, your friend waving, the background chatter. Then imagine your English flowing naturally. You say, "Hey, it's great to see you. How's your week been?" Your brain now rehearses the sequence, the words, the tone, and even the pauses. When the real conversation happens, your tongue has already walked the path your brain laid out. It simply executes without hesitation. Start with short dialogues. Begin with 2 to 3 lines at a time. For example, "Hi, I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you." "Where are you from?" "I love this coffee shop. The coffee smells amazing." Visualize these sentences in a realistic scenario, imagining the other person's responses. Even if you're speaking silently in your mind, your brain is actively forming neural connections. Over time, these mental rehearsals become automatic, and speaking out loud mirrors the smoothness you practiced internally.
Another approach is role-playing. Pretend you are in different situations: a job interview, a classroom discussion, a casual chat with a neighbor, or even a phone call. In each scenario, run multiple versions of the conversation in your head. Anticipate questions, prepare responses, and imagine alternative outcomes. This not only strengthens your vocabulary and sentence structures, but also teaches your brain to react in English naturally under different circumstances. The beauty of mental conversations is that you can do them anywhere, anytime. While commuting, walking, or even waiting in line, imagine dialogues and conversations silently. Your brain is constantly reinforcing the connections, preparing you for real-life interactions without the stress of actual performance. It's like a rehearsal before the main stage. Your brain learns the rhythm, vocabulary, and confidence long before your tongue starts speaking. Incorporate emotions to make it more effective. Just as your brain encodes words with sensory experiences in vocabulary training, emotional context strengthens mental conversations. Feel excitement, curiosity, surprise, or humor as you imagine the dialogue. For instance, if your mental conversation involves telling a funny story, imagine laughing, seeing your friend's reaction, and experiencing the joy of the moment. Your brain links the words not just to their meaning, but to emotional cues, making them easier to recall in real situations. Combine mental conversation with listening practice. Listen to real dialogues from podcasts, TV shows, or interviews, then replay them in your mind. Imagine yourself in the role of one of the speakers. How would you respond? What would you say next? This creates a two-way neural simulation. Your brain learns both comprehension and production simultaneously. Over time, your responses in actual conversations will mirror the fluidity you practiced mentally. Another tip is to speak to yourself out loud after mental rehearsal. Start small. Narrate your day, describe a task, or tell a story you imagined earlier. The transition from mental conversation to spoken conversation is seamless because your brain has already done the heavy lifting. Your tongue just follows along naturally. Don't worry if it feels strange at first. Many learners feel awkward imagining conversations alone. But remember, the goal isn't to entertain anyone, it's to train your brain. The more vivid and realistic you make the scenarios, the stronger the neural pathways. Soon, speaking English becomes instinctive, like riding a bicycle. Your brain knows the mechanics, and your tongue performs effortlessly. A key aspect of mental conversation is iteration.
Repeat the same scenario multiple times with slight variations. For instance, if you practiced introducing yourself to a new colleague, imagine saying the same words in different tones, adjusting the words slightly, or responding to different reactions. This flexibility trains your brain to adapt quickly in real-life conversations, reducing hesitation and increasing fluency. Finally, mental conversations improve confidence and reduce anxiety. When your brain has rehearsed countless scenarios, real-life speaking feels familiar and safe. You're no longer inventing words on the spot, you're simply accessing the pathways already built. Your tongue doesn't struggle, it just follows the instructions your brain has already practiced.
Let's start with listening actively. Passive listening, like having English audio in the background while doing chores, is helpful but not enough. Active listening means engaging with the material fully. Pick a podcast, TV show, or YouTube video in English. Focus on every word, phrase, and intonation. Pay attention to pauses, emphasis, and how speakers transition between ideas. Notice the patterns in sentence structure, vocabulary usage, and even the rhythm of speech. Your brain starts recognizing these patterns subconsciously, preparing itself to replicate them when you speak. Once you've actively listened, move to immediate repetition. Don't just repeat words, repeat phrases, sentences, or even entire dialogues you heard. This is called shadowing, a method used by language learners and interpreters to mimic native speakers. Imagine hearing, "I can't believe it, the sunset is absolutely breathtaking tonight." Instead of saying it mechanically, try to copy the tone, pacing, and emotion exactly as the speaker said it. Shadowing bridges the gap between passive listening and active speaking. Your brain starts coordinating comprehension with production, and your tongue learns to move naturally, following the brain's guidance. Next comes creative speaking based on what you listen to. After shadowing a segment, take the theme or context and invent your own sentences. If the original dialogue was about a sunset, you might say, "Tonight the sky looks like a painting. I wish I could capture it forever." This encourages your brain to produce new sentences using familiar vocabulary and structures. The more you practice creating original sentences from input, the faster your brain builds connections and the easier it becomes to speak spontaneously in real life. An important trick here is looped practice. Listen to a short audio clip, repeat it aloud, then respond with your own variation, and finally summarize it in your own words. For example, listen to someone talking about their weekend, repeat their sentences, then say, "I had a similar weekend. I went hiking and enjoyed the fresh air." This loop, listen, repeat, produce, creates a strong feedback system that trains both comprehension and expression. Your brain recognizes patterns and starts producing language automatically without the need for translation. Another critical element is shadowing with emotions. English isn't just a collection of words, it's the way ideas and emotions are conveyed. When you listen to someone excitedly describing an event, don't just mimic the words, feel the excitement as you speak. When the speaker uses humor, laugh a little. When there's surprise, widen your eyes or raise your voice slightly. Emotion strengthens neural pathways in your brain, making it easier to recall words and phrases naturally during real conversations. Consistency is key. Dedicate time each day to this listening-speaking loop. Even 20 to 30 minutes daily can produce remarkable results over time. Start with short clips, then gradually progress to longer dialogues, podcasts, or interviews. Challenge yourself to respond as if you're having a conversation, even if no one is listening. Your brain treats this practice as real-life speaking, reinforcing fluency subconsciously.
Now, let's talk about integrating mental rehearsal into this loop. Before listening, imagine what the speaker might say. After listening, visualize yourself responding confidently in the same scenario. Then speak out loud. This three-step integration Predict, listen, respond engages your brain on multiple levels: anticipation, comprehension, and production. It's a powerful way to train your brain to think in English naturally. Another advanced method is interactive shadowing. Instead of repeating word for word, leave pauses where you would naturally respond in a conversation. For instance, if the audio says, "I can't wait for the weekend," pause and respond, "Me too. I'm planning a hiking trip." This makes your practice more conversational and prepares your brain for spontaneous speech in real interactions. Finally, pay attention to self-correction. As you practice listening and speaking, notice areas where your sentences feel unnatural or where your pronunciation slips. Pause, repeat, and adjust. This reflection is crucial. It allows your brain to refine pathways and reinforces learning. Over time, your brain and tongue work together seamlessly, producing English fluently without conscious effort. By combining listening, shadowing, mental rehearsal, and creative speaking, you create a closed feedback loop. Each component strengthens the other. Listening improves understanding, shadowing strengthens production, mental rehearsal primes your brain, and creative speaking ensures flexibility and spontaneity. Together, they form a system where your brain is trained to think in English, your tongue follows naturally, and fluency emerges as an effortless byproduct.
Emotions are key. Fluent speakers don't just convey information, they convey feelings. When telling a story, imagine the emotions deeply: excitement, surprise, sadness, or humor. Your brain encodes these emotions along with vocabulary and sentence structures. For example, describing a thrilling roller coaster ride with words like "my heart raced," "my hands trembled," and "I screamed with excitement" makes your storytelling vivid and memorable. This emotional encoding ensures that the words come naturally when you speak. Practice daily storytelling. Start small, 1 or 2 minutes a day. Narrate your day, a recent event, or a fictional story. Gradually increase the length and complexity. Record yourself if possible, and listen later to identify areas for improvement. This reflection strengthens your brain pathways, reinforces vocabulary, and improves sentence fluency. Use prompts to stimulate imagination. Examples include: describe a place you've never been but want to visit. Narrate an embarrassing moment and what you learned from it. Imagine a conversation between 2 strangers in a coffee shop. By challenging yourself with diverse prompts, you expose your brain to multiple scenarios, improving adaptability and spontaneity in real-life conversations. Storytelling also improves grammar and sentence structure naturally. When you focus on telling a story rather than memorizing rules, your brain practices forming correct sentences intuitively. You start to notice patterns: how verbs change with tense, how adjectives enhance descriptions, and how conjunctions connect ideas. This natural absorption is far more effective than rote memorization because your brain sees the rules in action. Incorporate mental rehearsal into storytelling. Before speaking, imagine the story in your mind, visualize the scenes, and hear the dialogue. Then, speak out loud. This combination of mental rehearsal and vocal practice strengthens the neural pathways that link thought to speech. Over time, your brain produces fluent, confident speech with minimal conscious effort. Reduce noise. Interactive storytelling is the next step. Share your stories with friends, language partners, or online communities. Ask for feedback or simply listen to how others respond. Conversations about your stories reinforce fluency by providing real-time interaction and spontaneous language use. Your brain learns to adapt and respond, just like in natural dialogue. Read stories in English. Exposure to written narratives complements your own storytelling. Pay attention to sentence structures, descriptive language, idioms, and dialogue.
Then try retelling the story in your own words. This active engagement trains your brain to produce richer, more expressive speech, enhancing both vocabulary and confidence. Remember, storytelling bridges the gap between passive knowledge and active speaking. When you practice telling stories in English, your brain learns to organize thoughts, recall vocabulary naturally, and express emotions effectively. Your tongue simply follows the mental script your brain has rehearsed. Over time, you'll notice that conversations, explanations, and even casual chats flow more smoothly. The first step is reading actively. Don't just passively scan words on a page. Choose material slightly above your current level: books, articles, blogs, or short stories. As you read, visualize every scene. Imagine the character's emotions and mentally narrate the events in your own words. For example, if a story describes a rainy day in New York City, picture the gray clouds, the puddles reflecting streetlights, people hurrying with umbrellas, and the smell of wet asphalt. Describe it internally in English. The rain poured steadily, soaking the streets and sending people running under umbrellas. I watched as a yellow taxi splashed through a puddle, drenching a nearby pedestrian. By doing this, you are already training your brain to think in English while linking words to vivid mental imagery. Next, combine reading with listening. Find an audiobook or podcast version of the text you are reading. Listen while following along with the words. Pay attention to pronunciation, tone, intonation, and rhythm. Hearing the words while seeing them reinforces the brain's neural pathways, connecting written, spoken, and imagined English. You're not just memorizing words, you're integrating comprehension, pronunciation, and context. After reading and listening, move to active speaking. Summarize what you read or listened to out loud in your own words. Imagine explaining the story or article to a friend. For example, after reading a chapter of a novel, narrate, "In this chapter, the main character faces a big challenge. He feels scared and unsure, but he decides to take a brave step forward. The tension builds as he encounters unexpected obstacles, but he doesn't give up." This practice strengthens your ability to produce English fluently, using vocabulary and structures already encoded in your brain. Mental rehearsal fits naturally into this loop. Before summarizing or speaking, close your eyes and visualize the scenes, dialogues, or ideas. Imagine describing them confidently, then speak out loud. This bridges silent thinking and spoken production, ensuring that your brain guides your tongue efficiently and smoothly.
Another key component is vocal shadowing combined with speaking variations. While listening to audiobooks or podcasts, pause at intervals and respond as if you are part of the conversation or narrative. If the story describes a debate, take one side and express your opinion aloud. If a character experiences an emotion, describe it in your own words. This dynamic engagement ensures your brain practices not only comprehension, but also creative production, making fluency automatic. Integration into daily life is crucial for consistency. Incorporate this loop during morning routines, commuting, or evening relaxation. For example, while preparing breakfast, read a short paragraph from an English article, listen to the podcast version, and summarize it out loud. While walking, narrate your surroundings using descriptive sentences. By making English a living part of your day, you continuously train your brain without adding pressure or stress. Track your progress by recording yourself occasionally. Listen to the recordings and identify improvements or areas to refine. Over time, you'll notice a natural increase in vocabulary use, sentence complexity, intonation, and confidence. These recordings act as mirrors, showing how far your brain-tongue loop has come. Variety is important. Mix different sources: fiction, nonfiction, news,
podcasts, and conversations. Different genres expose your brain to varied vocabulary, sentence structures, and contexts, creating a richer, more adaptable mental framework. The more diverse your inputs, the more flexible and spontaneous your English becomes. Feedback and correction enhance this loop. If possible, share your summaries or narrations with a friend, tutor, or language exchange partner. Ask for constructive feedback. When corrected, your brain integrates the adjustment, strengthening fluency pathways. Mistakes are not setbacks, they are signals for your brain to refine its connections, making future speech more accurate and confident. Repetition with variation is the final pillar. Repeat this reading, listening, speaking loop with new material daily, but vary the scenarios, contexts, and expressions. This ensures your brain is not memorizing rigid patterns, but learning flexible, adaptable English that can be applied spontaneously in any conversation. The magic of this continuous loop is that it simulates real-life language use in a controlled, consistent way. Your brain is constantly processing input, practicing output, and refining skills. When actual conversation happens, the pathways are already strong and well-formed. Speaking feels effortless because your brain has rehearsed countless scenarios internally, and your tongue simply follows the natural flow.
By integrating reading, listening, mental rehearsal, and active speaking into a daily continuous loop, you're not just memorizing English, you're living it. Over weeks and months, this process rewires your brain, reduces hesitation, increases vocabulary retention, and builds the confidence necessary for natural, fluent conversation. The first step is setting a daily practice schedule. Consistency is more important than duration. Even 20 to 30 minutes a day, if done systematically, is far more effective than sporadic hours of practice. Start with activities like mental rehearsal, shadowing, storytelling, or the reading, listening, speaking loop we discussed. The key is to make English a predictable part of your day, like brushing your teeth or having breakfast. Your brain starts expecting it and prepares itself, creating strong neural pathways that support fluent speech. Morning routines are particularly effective. Many successful language learners begin their day with a focused English exercise. For example, you can listen to an English podcast while getting ready, narrate your plans for the day aloud, or read a short article and summarize it mentally. This primes your brain to think in English for the rest of the day. Starting the day with English also sets a positive tone and builds momentum, making later practice feel easier and more natural. Another habit is integrating English into mundane activities. While cooking, cleaning, commuting, or exercising, narrate your actions or thoughts in English. For example, I'm chopping vegetables for lunch. The carrots are crunchy and the smell is fresh. I need to boil water for pasta next. This technique turns ordinary moments into language training opportunities. Your brain starts linking English to everyday life, and your tongue follows effortlessly. Use micro-practices throughout the day. Even small bursts of English, like describing a picture, thinking of alternative ways to say a phrase, or repeating a sentence mentally, reinforce fluency. These mini-sessions keep your brain engaged and prevent stagnation. Over time, these consistent micro-practices accumulate, producing significant improvement without overwhelming your schedule. Journaling in English is another powerful habit. Spend 10 to 15 minutes daily writing about your day, thoughts, or feelings. Focus on expressing ideas, not perfection. This engages your brain in vocabulary recall, sentence construction, and logical flow. When you write daily, your brain internalizes grammar and vocabulary naturally. Later, when speaking, these neural pathways activate automatically, allowing you to express ideas confidently without hesitation.
active listening habit is equally crucial. Make it a routine to listen to English daily, podcasts, audiobooks, radio, or even YouTube videos. Focus on understanding meaning, intonation, and emotional cues. After listening, summarize or respond mentally or out loud. By repeating this cycle consistently, your brain learns to anticipate language patterns, increasing fluency and comprehension simultaneously. Engage in conversations regularly. Whether with friends, online language partners, or tutors, speaking in English should be part of your routine. Start with small, manageable conversations and gradually increase complexity. Treat mistakes as learning opportunities rather than failures. Regular interaction strengthens neural pathways, reinforces vocabulary, and trains your tongue to follow your brain's instructions effortlessly. Gamify your learning to maintain motivation. Set daily, weekly, or monthly goals. Learn 5 new words a day, narrate a 5-minute story, or shadow a podcast episode without stopping. Reward yourself when you achieve milestones. Positive reinforcement strengthens habits and keeps your brain motivated to continue practicing consistently. Immersion habit is key for accelerated fluency. Surround yourself with English as much as possible. Change your phone or computer language to English, follow English-speaking social media accounts, watch movies without subtitles, and interact with English content daily. Your brain adapts to the language environment, making it easier to think and speak fluently. Reflection habit enhances learning. At the end of each day, reflect on what you practiced, what went well, what felt challenging, and what new words or expressions you used. This reflection consolidates learning, making neural pathways stronger. When your brain reviews and reinforces knowledge daily, your speaking becomes automatic over time. Mindset habit is equally important. Approach practice with curiosity, openness, and patience. Avoid self-criticism and perfectionism. Celebrate progress, however small. A positive mindset makes the learning experience enjoyable and sustainable, reducing stress and enhancing retention. Combine all habits into a daily flow.
Morning listening or reading for 10 to 15 minutes. Mental rehearsal while commuting or exercising. Shadowing and storytelling for 15 to 20 minutes. Narration or journaling about your day. Evening reflection and review of new vocabulary or expressions. By integrating these activities into your routine, English becomes a natural part of your life, not an isolated task. Your brain starts thinking, processing, and predicting in English continuously. Your tongue doesn't struggle, it simply follows the strong neural pathways you've built. Consistency over perfection is the golden rule. Daily practice doesn't need to be perfect or exhaustive. The key is persistence. Habits compound over time. Weeks and months of consistent practice create deep, automatic fluency that feels effortless, natural, and confident. The first step is changing your mindset about errors. Instead of seeing a mispronounced word or an incorrect tense as a setback, view it as information. Your brain just received feedback about what needs adjustment. Every mistake strengthens your awareness and helps your brain form better connections for next time. This shift from fear to curiosity transforms learning from a stressful task into an exciting experiment. One powerful technique is self-correction during practice. When you notice an error in pronunciation, grammar, or word choice, pause and repeat the sentence correctly. For example, if you say, "I goed to the store yesterday," stop and correct, "I went to the store yesterday." This deliberate correction reinforces the correct pathway in your brain, making it more likely that you'll use it automatically in the future. Record yourself speaking.
This allows you to identify mistakes you may not notice in real time. Play the recording, note recurring errors, and practice correcting them. Recording also helps track progress, giving you confidence as you see improvement over time. When you hear your own growth, your brain becomes more motivated to continue learning and refining your speech. Another approach is learning from native speakers. Pay attention to how they use grammar, vocabulary, and intonation. When you notice differences between their speech and yours, don't feel discouraged. Instead, practice mimicking their patterns. Treat every discrepancy as a mini lesson. Your brain learns not only the correct forms, but also how to produce them naturally under real-world conditions.
Mistakes are also opportunities for creativity. Sometimes you won't know the exact word or phrase. Instead of freezing, describe the idea using simpler language. For instance, if you forget the word astonished, you might say, "I was really surprised." Your brain is training flexibility, learning to communicate effectively even when perfection isn't possible. Fluent speakers rely on this skill constantly. It's the difference between pausing awkwardly and continuing confidently. Practice error-friendly activities. Engage in exercises that encourage trial and error, like improvisational storytelling, debates, or role plays. These activities push you out of your comfort zone, forcing your brain to think quickly and adapt. Over time, your brain forms robust pathways for flexible, fluent speech that can handle mistakes without hesitation. Normalize mistakes socially. Share your English practice with supportive friends, tutors, or language partners. When mistakes happen in conversation, ask for gentle corrections. The feedback reinforces learning and builds confidence. Social acceptance of errors removes fear and encourages more speaking opportunities, which is essential for fluency. Reflect on patterns in your errors. Are there particular grammar rules, pronunciations, or words that frequently cause problems? Identifying trends allows you to target specific areas for improvement, making practice more efficient. For example, if you consistently struggle with past tense verbs, focus on exercises that use storytelling to reinforce correct forms. Your brain loves patterns, and repeated correction strengthens automatic recall. Mental rehearsal with corrections is another advanced technique. When imagining conversations or storytelling scenarios, intentionally include errors and then correct them mentally. This trains your brain to detect mistakes in real time and adjust responses naturally. By practicing this internally, your tongue follows seamlessly when speaking out loud. Celebrate mistakes as milestones. Each error you encounter is evidence that your brain is actively trying new pathways, experimenting with vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. Celebrate the courage to speak and make mistakes. It's a sign of growth. Over time, fluency emerges not from avoiding mistakes, but from engaging with them purposefully. Combine mistakes with the feedback loop. After listening, speaking, or storytelling, review your practice and note errors. Correct them, repeat the activity, and integrate the correct forms into mental rehearsal. This continuous loop of action, error, reflection, and correction is the engine that drives fluent English production. By embracing mistakes as tools rather than obstacles, you remove fear, increase confidence, and accelerate learning. Your brain learns to adapt, your tongue becomes more flexible, and speaking English transforms from a stressful task into an exciting, dynamic process. Remember, fluency is not perfection. It is confident, flexible, and natural communication, built by consistent practice, reflection, and adaptation. Let's start with pronunciation. Accurate pronunciation is essential for being understood. Mispronouncing words can disrupt communication, slow conversations, and reduce confidence. But here's the key: you don't need to have a perfect accent. What matters is clarity and consistency.
Your brain needs to hear, process, and replicate sounds accurately. This is where listening and repetition come together. Listen to native speakers carefully. Focus on individual sounds, word stress, and syllable emphasis. Then repeat the words out loud, paying attention to subtle differences.
A practical method is phonetic training. Learn the sounds of English, especially those that are different from your native language. For example, words like thought, though, and through contain similar letters but very different sounds. Practice them repeatedly, slowly at first, then gradually increase speed. Your brain will learn to distinguish and produce these sounds naturally, and your tongue will follow without conscious effort. Intonation is equally important. Intonation is the rise and fall of your voice, the melody that gives English its natural rhythm. It conveys emotions, emphasizes ideas, and makes your speech sound engaging. For example, compare the sentences, "You're coming," neutral. "You're coming?" Question, rising intonation. "You're coming?" Excited, strong emphasis. By practicing intonation patterns, you teach your brain to link meaning and emotion to vocal cues. When your tongue follows, your speech becomes expressive and natural rather than flat or robotic. Shadowing with emphasis on pronunciation and intonation is a powerful technique. Choose short audio clips from podcasts, movies, or audiobooks. Listen carefully to the speaker's tone, rhythm, and word stress. Repeat immediately, mimicking every rise, fall, and pause. Don't just focus on words, focus on the musicality of the sentence. Your brain encodes both meaning and melody, and your tongue naturally follows. Over time, this practice helps you sound like a confident, fluent speaker, not someone mechanically repeating words. Word stress and sentence stress are also critical. English is a stress-timed language, meaning some syllables and words are emphasized while others are reduced. For example, "I'm going to the supermarket tomorrow" has stress on going, supermarket, and tomorrow, while smaller words like to and the are spoken quickly. Practicing stress patterns trains your brain to produce speech naturally, reducing monotone delivery and hesitation.
Linking words and connected speech further enhance fluency. Native speakers often blend words together. "What are you going to do" sounds like "what you're gonna do." Learning these patterns helps your brain anticipate the flow of speech. By mimicking connected speech, your tongue moves more smoothly and your English sounds fluid rather than choppy. Practice with repetition and variation. Repeat the same sentences with different intonation, emotion, and pacing. For example, narrate a sentence happily, sadly, or with curiosity. This trains your brain to adjust speech dynamically, ensuring that your tongue can produce natural-sounding English in any situation. Record and compare. Record yourself repeating sentences or short paragraphs. Compare with native speakers' pronunciation and intonation. Identify differences and practice until your voice matches closely. This reflective practice strengthens neural pathways, making accurate pronunciation and expressive intonation automatic. Emotional expression matters. Fluency is not only clarity, it's engagement. When you tell a story, ask a question, or give an opinion, convey feelings through your tone. Excitement, curiosity, frustration, or humor enriches your speech, signaling confidence and natural communication. Your brain encodes words, meaning, and emotion together, making recall effortless when speaking in real-life scenarios. Finally, integrate all prior techniques: mental rehearsal, storytelling, shadowing, reading-listening loops, and daily habits with pronunciation practice. By combining these approaches, you create a complete brain-to-tongue training system.
Your brain predicts and organizes language, your tongue follows with precision, and your English becomes fluent, natural, and expressive. By mastering pronunciation and intonation, you ensure that every word you speak carries meaning, emotion, and clarity. This is what makes a speaker not only fluent, but captivating and confident, ready to communicate effortlessly in any conversation.
Reduce noise is another powerful tool. While waiting or commuting, create small stories in your mind entirely in English. Imagine scenarios, characters, and dialogues. The act of thinking and constructing sentences trains your brain to produce ideas fluently, without translation. Over time, you'll notice that forming sentences in English becomes instinctive, just like thinking in your native language. Use inner dialogue. Ask yourself questions and answer in English internally. For example, what should I cook for dinner tonight? Answer mentally, I think I'll make pasta with vegetables. It's quick and healthy. This simulates real-life conversation and prepares your brain to respond instantly when talking to others. Combine with listening practice. While listening to English audio, pause and predict what comes next mentally. Then, narrate what you just heard in your own words in your head. This strengthens the brain's ability to think and respond in English quickly, reducing reliance on translation and increasing fluency. Vocabulary expansion in context is essential. Don't just memorize isolated words. Learn them in phrases, sentences, or real-life contexts. For example, instead of learning happy, learn I feel happy because I finished my project successfully. When your brain stores words in context, thinking in English becomes seamless, and your tongue produces them naturally. Practice switching from native language to English spontaneously. Pick random moments to describe thoughts, actions, or surroundings in English. Challenge yourself to maintain the train of thought entirely in English, even for short periods. Gradually extend the duration as your comfort and fluency improve. Positive reinforcement strengthens this habit. Each time you successfully think in English without translating, acknowledge it mentally. Your brain associates the practice with success, increasing motivation and confidence. Over time, English thinking becomes habitual, reducing hesitation and improving speech speed and clarity. Interactive exercises are highly effective. Engage in conversations with yourself or others in English. Ask questions, answer spontaneously, describe events, or debate ideas, all mentally first, then aloud. This practice mimics real conversation, reinforcing automatic English thought and enhancing fluency. Visualization in English accelerates the process. When imagining scenarios or planning tasks, visualize them entirely in English. Picture objects, people, actions, and emotions, and describe them mentally. Your brain integrates visual and linguistic information, strengthening pathways for spontaneous and fluent speech. Ultimately, thinking in English is the bridge between knowledge and fluent speech. When your brain processes ideas directly in English, your tongue follows without hesitation, producing confident, natural, and coherent communication. Fluency is no longer about translating words. It becomes about expressing thoughts effortlessly in a language your brain has mastered.
The first step is active vocabulary expansion. Instead of memorizing random words, focus on words and phrases relevant to your daily life, interests, and common conversation topics.
Create small word banks for categories like food, travel, emotions, work, and social situations. When a difficult situation arises, your brain can quickly retrieve a relevant word or phrase, reducing the chance of hesitation. Use descriptive language when you forget a specific word. For example, if you can't recall the word refrigerator, describe it, the big white box in the kitchen that keeps food cold. Native speakers often use this strategy naturally, and it allows you to maintain communication without pausing or freezing. Your brain gradually associates these descriptions with the correct word, improving recall over time. Learn synonyms and alternatives. English offers multiple ways to express the same idea. For example, if you forget happy, you can say glad, excited, thrilled, or delighted. By having backup options stored mentally, you train your brain to stay flexible, keeping conversations flowing even when a particular word doesn't come immediately. Practice paraphrasing regularly. Take a simple sentence and express it in multiple ways. For instance, I'm going to the store. Paraphrase 1, I'm heading to the shop. Paraphrase 2, I need to buy some things, so I'm going out. This exercise strengthens your ability to express ideas fluidly, so when one word or phrase escapes you, your brain can automatically produce an alternative. Use fillers strategically. Native speakers use fillers like, well, you know, let me see, and actually, to buy time while thinking. This is not a flaw, it's a communication tool. When you encounter a difficult word, a well-placed filler gives your brain a moment to search for the right word without breaking the flow of conversation. Contextual guessing is another essential skill. Sometimes you can infer meaning or phrase alternatives from the conversation itself. For example, if someone asks, "Did you see the documentary on marine life?" and you can't recall the word documentary, you can say, "Yes, I watched that movie about the ocean creatures." Context allows you to communicate effectively while your brain solidifies the missing vocabulary. Practice improvisation. Role-playing exercises, storytelling, or spontaneous dialogues force your brain to respond to unknown situations using existing vocabulary and creativity. The more you practice improvisation, the faster your brain learns to navigate difficult words or phrases without hesitation. Over time, improvisation becomes second nature. Maintain a word notebook for difficult words and phrases. Each time you encounter a word you don't know, write it down with its meaning, synonyms, and example sentences. Review it daily, but more importantly, use those words in speaking practice. The brain retains vocabulary better when it's actively applied rather than passively memorized.
Shadowing and repetition help solidify these strategies. While listening to native speakers, notice how they handle unfamiliar words or complex expressions. Repeat their sentences, paying attention to context clues, paraphrasing, and intonation. By mimicking these strategies, your brain internalizes flexible approaches to communication, allowing your tongue to produce natural speech under any circumstance. Visualization techniques are powerful too. When you encounter a difficult word, close your eyes and picture what it represents. Mentally describe it, connect it to related words, or create a mini story around it. This strengthens associations in your brain, making the actual word easier to retrieve next time. Finally, confidence is crucial. Accept that you may not know every word. Fluent communication is about expressing ideas clearly, not perfection. Your brain can be trained to adapt, use alternatives, and continue speaking fluidly. The more comfortable you become with handling difficult words and phrases, the more natural and confident your speech becomes. By mastering these strategies, you ensure that vocabulary gaps never interrupt your flow. Your brain learns to navigate obstacles seamlessly, your tongue follows without hesitation, and your English becomes fluent, adaptive, and confident. The first step is shifting your mindset. Stop fearing mistakes or judgment. Every fluent speaker,
Even natives makes errors. They learn and adapt. View each conversation as an opportunity to practice, not as a test. When your brain associates speaking with learning rather than fear, hesitation disappears and fluency flows naturally. Positive self-talk can help. Phrases like, "I can express my thoughts clearly," or "mistakes help me improve," reinforce confidence at a neurological level. Real-world practice is crucial. Seek opportunities to speak English every day. This could be ordering food, asking for directions, participating in online language exchanges, or talking with friends who speak English. Each interaction strengthens your brain-tongue connection. The more frequently you speak in real situations, the more your brain automates English thinking, making your tongue respond naturally without overthinking. Start small and gradually expand. Begin with short conversations or simple sentences. For example, greet someone, introduce yourself, or comment on the weather. As comfort increases, expand to more complex topics like hobbies, opinions, or storytelling. Gradual exposure builds confidence without overwhelming your brain, creating a solid foundation for fluent speech. Visualization is a powerful confidence tool. Before speaking, imagine yourself having a successful conversation. Visualize the setting, imagine the words flowing smoothly, and feel the confidence in your body. Mental rehearsal prepares your brain to perform in real life, reducing anxiety and hesitation. Your tongue will naturally follow the mental script. Use prepared phrases strategically. Memorize versatile expressions and conversation starters that can be adapted to different situations. For example, "That's interesting. Could you tell me more?" Or, "I agree, but I also think..." Having a mental toolkit reduces pauses and boosts confidence because your brain knows you can handle various scenarios.
Reduce noise. Focus on communication, not perfection. Native-like fluency is not the goal. Clear, confident, and engaging communication is. Even if your pronunciation isn't perfect, your confidence can make your speech compelling. When your brain prioritizes expression over perfection, your tongue moves freely and conversations flow naturally. Positive reinforcement through reflection is another key strategy. After speaking, reflect on what went well and acknowledge progress. Identify 1 or 2 areas for improvement, then move on. Overanalyzing mistakes can reduce confidence, but structured reflection encourages growth while maintaining a positive mindset. Engage in social challenges. Participate in group discussions, debates, or online forums. Real interactions create pressure that mimics natural conversations. Your brain thinks quickly in English, your tongue adapts, and confidence grows. Repetition of these experiences builds resilience, making spontaneous English conversations easier over time. Record and review real conversations. Listening to your speech helps identify strengths and weaknesses. Celebrate improvements in clarity, vocabulary, and sentence structure. Hearing progress reinforces your belief in your abilities, making your brain-tongue coordination more efficient and your confidence unshakable. Body language and posture matter. Stand or sit upright, maintain eye contact, and use gestures naturally. Confident body language signals your brain that you are capable, which enhances vocal strength and articulation. Your speech becomes more persuasive, engaging, and fluent when your body aligns with your confident mindset. Practice in front of a mirror or with a supportive audience. Mirror practice helps you observe expressions, intonation, and gestures while speaking.
Practicing with friends or tutors provides immediate feedback and reassurance. Both methods reinforce confidence, making real-world conversations smoother and more natural. Gradual desensitization to fear is essential. If public speaking or talking to strangers makes you nervous, start with low-pressure situations and increase difficulty over time. For example, start with one-on-one conversations, progress to small groups, and eventually participate in larger discussions. Your brain and tongue adapt progressively, and fear diminishes. Consistency and persistence are the final pillars of confidence. Daily speaking, real-world practice, mental rehearsal, and positive reinforcement compound over time. As neural pathways strengthen, your brain produces English thoughts instinctively, and your tongue delivers them confidently. Fluency is no longer an aspiration. It becomes a natural part of who you are. By embracing these strategies, you ensure that confidence supports fluency rather than fear hindering it. Your brain becomes proactive in forming sentences, your tongue responds automatically, and your speech flows effortlessly in real-life situations. With consistent practice, thinking in English, and embracing challenges, confident, natural communication becomes your new norm. First, understand that fluency is dynamic, not static. Language evolves, vocabulary expands, and new situations arise. To stay fluent, your brain must continually adapt. This means ongoing practice is essential. Even after reaching a high level of fluency, continue daily exercises, listening to podcasts, reading articles, narrating your day in English, storytelling, and engaging in conversations. These practices keep neural pathways active and prevent stagnation. Second, embrace lifelong curiosity. Explore new topics, learn specialized vocabulary, and challenge yourself with complex ideas. For example, if you've mastered casual conversations, move to debates, presentations, or technical discussions. Each new challenge strengthens your brain-tongue coordination, allowing English to flow effortlessly in any context. Reflection and adaptation remain crucial. Regularly review your progress. Identify areas where speech feels less confident or where vocabulary gaps appear. Adjust your practice accordingly. Your brain thrives on feedback and repetition, so targeted adjustments ensure continuous improvement.
Reduce noise. Social engagement also sustains fluency. Interact with diverse English speakers, participate in discussion groups, or teach others. Teaching, even informally, reinforces your knowledge, strengthens neural connections, and boosts confidence. Your fluency grows faster when you actively share and use English in meaningful ways. Maintain your confidence mindset. Remember, fluency is not about perfection. It's about clarity, expression, and adaptability. Celebrate your achievements, embrace mistakes as learning opportunities, and approach every interaction with curiosity and courage. This mindset keeps your brain and tongue aligned, making speaking feel effortless even in challenging situations. Finally, integrate English into your lifestyle as a natural, enjoyable habit. Listen to music, watch movies, read books, and engage in conversations, always actively, always thoughtfully. When English becomes a living part of your daily life, fluency becomes automatic. Your brain thinks in English, your tongue speaks naturally, and communication feels effortless.
As we wrap up this journey, remember, fluent English is not just about words. It's about thinking, feeling, and expressing ideas confidently and naturally. By training your brain, practicing consistently, embracing mistakes, and maintaining curiosity, you've equipped yourself with the tools to speak English fluently in any situation. Thank you for joining us on this journey at Whispered Tales. We hope these strategies empower you to speak English with confidence, clarity, and freedom. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and stay tuned. Next time, we'll bring more exciting topics and techniques to help you unlock your full potential in English and beyond. Keep practicing, stay curious, and remember, your brain has the power to make English fluent. Your tongue just needs to follow.